Hey everybody, it's ASIC Eric, and I know in the last video I said we were gonna box this guy up today and get it out of here, and I still hope we can do that, but I want to go through and double check a few things on this guy before we do that. This bracket on this side, as I said in the video yesterday, is a little cockeyed this way, and I remembered when I put it in, I checked the vertical angle on these two and they weren't the same, but everything seemed to be lined up right, so I just kind of left it that way. But that's bugging me now, so I want to probably take this guy and slam it back under the car again, or start out without the wheels on it and just try and measure it. And I think what I'm going to try to do is drop some plumb lines down and try and measure against the rockers or something, I guess, and try and see if it's square back there, just to give me a sense of confidence that this thing's actually straight. As near as we could tell yesterday, it was straight using that distance from here to the wheel, as I said yesterday, as our benchmark, but maybe that's not the best benchmark. Maybe the two sides of the car are different or something right there. So anyway, I want to double check that today before we box this up and send it off, and hopefully it's okay. If not, I think I can get this bracket back off pretty easily, just grinding these welds down. But these guys, I put a lot of welds on the inside and the outside. I'm not sure I'd be able to get this one off again if I wanted to. If that ends up being off and it moves the rear end front or back, then all these brackets are going to be out of alignment. Maybe that one's okay. But anyway, we'll see. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Everything was bolted in with all of the brackets and the upper and lower control arms was bolted in as I tacked everything in, and before I took it out, everything was still bolted up. So wherever it was sitting is where we thought it was supposed to be. So those brackets reflect that, but just that one bracket's not quite the same as the other one. So like I said, it's got me a little concerned. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do this morning. Alright, so we have spent hours measuring and remeasuring and measuring some more, and there's nothing on this car that makes any sense at all. So we started out with this bracket and that bracket over there on the other side were two different angles. They were off by about 3 degrees. So we nudge the rear end back this way a little bit so that that one over there would have the same angle as this one. So theoretically, the housing and these two brackets are aligned the same way, at least as best as we can tell. But if we come along and we measure from this point to the front of the lower control arm on each side of the car, it's almost ½ inch difference on the two sides. If we go here and measure back, it's almost ½ inch difference on each side, which makes no sense. I mean, the bracket is where the bracket is. There's not really much that can be done with it. There's a little bit of twist you can get in the control arms there, the upper control arms. So maybe there's something to be done there. I'm not sure. Those are adjustable, so we can move this thing in or out that way. We tried measuring from the rear end to some points on the front of the car. Those don't really make any sense. I don't know if the subframe is on straight, so that, I don't know. But from the rear end to the wheels is different on the two sides. From the rear end to here is different on the two sides. Not consistently, but more often than not, showing that side of the car is longer than this side of the car. You know, from 3/8 of an inch to ½ inch. Who knows? Then the other thing we did was we dropped level lines down from the rockers onto the floor here, and then level line down from the rear end here, and took a straight edge, 90 degree here, like so. Tried to line this guy up here, like about that, and then mark that point over there on both sides of the car. Now both sides of the car have this same toe in with the line of the rockers, which implies the car is getting narrower as it goes to the front of the car, or just this side of this car is screwed up. I don't know. But this matches on both sides of the car. So that's the best measurement I can think of, is that, you know, relative to what the car thinks is going down the road that way, it's at least symmetric on the two sides of the car. So here's what we're doing. We're hanging our hat on the fact that this on both sides of the car matches. These brackets are mounted the same way on both sides of the car. They're both set at the same angle this way. The lower control arms are the same. So if this part is lined up properly here on both sides, that is theoretically a match for whatever the leaf springs on this car were, because this is bolted into where the leaf spring would have been bolted into. So if we're seeing a difference anywhere, I mean, I kind of have to think that that's the way the car was. I just don't know. Or there's a little bit of a difference in the upper control arms there, which hopefully, if that's the case, we can adjust that out later since those are adjustable. But I kind of at a loss at this point. I don't really know what else we can do with it. So I think we're just gonna bag it up right there and call it done. I probably won't call Mosier until this is posted and you guys have a chance to comment on this. Any suggestions you have? I don't really know what else I can do. Like I said, we've measured everything 3 ways to Sunday, and you will get part of the measurements will say it's out and the other part of the measurements will say it's not. So which one do you trust? I don't know. Anyway, I think that's gonna do it, I think. So we're gonna pull this guy back out and drop it in the box and go from there. Thanks. All right, so the last thing we did here is an attempt to measure something. Is I put a straight edge on this down to the ground, marked a line, back this way, marked a line, and that line there is parallel to this tape line here, which is good theoretically. On the other side of the car, same thing. If we run that same experiment, it is 3/8 of an inch to the edge of the line there and 5/8 over there. So there's a 1/4 inch difference from here to here of this thing going out past where that is. And interestingly, this doesn't line up in the same place on the other side of the car. That line was over here, and here it's over here, although the wheels are centered. So again, the rockers are not centered relative to the rear end, because I know this is correct relative to the wheel wells and stuff, because we just had the wheels on it again and that all worked. So I don't know what the story is there, but whatever. So as I said, there's basically no measurements that we can do on here that make me feel happy. The only thing I can say is the angle of these two brackets on both sides is the same on the rear end. Raising and lowering the rear end through its arc of travel, these two things stay the same relative to each other, so the axle's not twisting as it goes up and down or anything. It's just moving nice up and down like it's supposed to, which I think tells me that the upper control arm brackets must be approximately in the right place. Otherwise, I think it would twist as it was moving up and down, and it doesn't seem to do that. It moves up and down just fine. So as I think I said before, I'm kind of at a loss at this point. I don't really know what to trust on this car. I just don't. We tried measuring also the distance from here, that body line that I was using before, to here, and from here to here. Those don't match. We went from the rear leaf spring mount to here, and from here to the front leaf spring mount. Those don't match. So nothing matches basically. So I don't know if anybody has some brilliant realization here. I really don't know what else to do other than leave it the way it is. Like I said, as I started at the beginning of the video, I started this whole process because those two brackets were at two different angles, which I didn't like. And we determined this based on measuring the wheels to the front of to that edge of that quarter panel right there. Now with the rear end where it is, what is it? I think it's this way, a 1/16 of an inch or maybe an 1/8 of an inch more than it was yesterday. So we had it kind of balanced on the two sides of the car yesterday. Now it's twisted this way a little bit. But these wheel openings aren't exactly the same. I've got a quarter panel repair over here. I got a drop off repair and no quarter panel over there. So it's kind of hard to determine, you know, what that's supposed to be. Again, this side of the car got hit. That rocker's all bent out of shape right there, so I'm not sure that edge can be trusted. Oh, the other thing we did when we had the rear end cranked up all the way, we measured crudely from the axle tube to the frame rail right there, and it said the same thing. That side was further out than this side by probably 1/4 of an inch. Wasn't that much, but it was a little bit. So every indication that I can see based on the car measurements is that it's twisted this way by anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. But the brackets are where they're supposed to be, and the lower control arm bars are where they're supposed to be. So I just don't know what else to do with that. I don't see how the upper control arm bars could have any influence on that, because you can't really twist the axle this way with all the bars on it, right? It can only really move, well, I can't even really move this way, right? All it can do is go up and down like this. So even if you have those in the wrong place, I think all you can do is just get the pinion angle wrong. I don't think you can really cause a twist like this, because the brackets just don't really want to allow that because of the triangulation on them. So it's very puzzling. You know, the big problem with this is once these things are sent off to Mosier, they're going to weld all this stuff down hard and paint this thing, and I can't touch those brackets ever again. So if they're wrong forever. So I just don't know. I don't know. So hopefully one of you guys out there has a suggestion for this. When I keep thinking that I should have measured all this with the rear end that I had, but the rear end that I had, I think the leaf springs were all screwed up on it. The rear end was held on by rope. So that rear end wasn't exactly correct either, so I'm not sure I could have measured anything off that would have helped. So I guess the fundamental question in all of this is, how much can this thing be off and it doesn't matter? And if what we're looking at here doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. I tried to do some trigonometry and figure out the angle error there, and I came up with some very small number, like 0.3 degrees of twist. So I mean, it's not very much, but is, you know, what is too much? I can't say. Sorry if I sound exasperated. It's just because I really don't know what to do. You know, I've got, generally speaking, you can figure out a way, but here I'm just stumped. I think ultimately it's just going to come down to a guess. You know, I either have to guess that these brackets are correct and that the geometry of the car is wrong, and, you know, the lower control arm, that whole thing there should be square based on the way I've got it welded in. I can't see how it wouldn't be. You know, these are bolted to the car where they're supposed to go. They're bolted to the same place there. They're set at the same angle on the rear end there. What else is there? You know, that part is pretty straightforward. So I'm kind of placing my trust there. Or you trust that the rest of the car is square, and those basically the only thing that's left is that the two leaf spring mount locations are twisted. That's possible too, but I don't know. There's no obvious damage to the back end of the car. Everything looks correct here, so it doesn't look like, you know, if something was hit or something to push it out of alignment. Anyway, so this is a very long video, just running you through all the things that we did, so someone doesn't post a comment saying, hey, why don't you measure from here to here? Well, if we already did that, then I'm trying to cover all of that for you, so someone isn't doing something redundant. If you have suggestions, So that's it. I'm just going to wrap it up for today. So like I said, we're hoping to finish this today, but obviously it's not finished. So I'll wait for some feedback from the garage crew there, garage gang. I'm not sure what we're supposed to call each other anymore, and take it from there. And probably it's just going to end up the way it is. It's going to go back in the box and go, unless somebody there says, no, you need to do the following. I've researched this online and I've tried everything that I saw online here, so I don't know what's left, but maybe you guys have an idea that I don't. That would be awesome. Anyway, I'm going to shut her down here. Thanks, everybody.